Okay, guys, welcome back to episode 9 of the Health, Wealth, and Sex podcast. We aim to discuss in this podcast all things regarding living your best life, thriving, and reaching your physique goals whilst moving away from traditional methodologies, which can often center around unnecessary suffering and set up practices that are ultimately unsustainable. So here we are. Tom, post show. How are you, my
Yes.
man?
Yes. So approximately was this 6 days post show now. I feel like I'm on the cusp if I've not achieved today, like homeostasis or equilibrium, because obviously you move from a very depleted, fatigued state, with it being in order to just knock out the regional and get kind of it's almost like doing a show mid prep, if not
Yes.
a third of the way into prep.
Yeah.
And in that regard, I was very happy with the look
Look
overall.
great. Yeah.
Um, but there were definitely and this is why it's important as well to actually um, take a regional show sort of seriously in
Mm.
regard of attempting to peak, attempting to look your best, attempting to present your best, because it's your trial run of like it's been 3 years since I've been on stage, but it's also a different body.
Yes.
Um, so, for example, my carbohydrate requirements to fill out were higher than they've ever been before.
Yes.
So one big reflection for me is like adapting my food sources for loading far more than I ever previously had.
So
Uh,
is that in terms of carbohydrate types, what actually digests well with your
yeah, I mean,
body?
when you think about, because obviously you're dieting, if you're having carbs, they
Yeah.
tend to be quite fiber dense.
Yes.
And like even um, like white rice is quite high volume in terms of fluid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So even like, so I did 1,300 grams of carbs across 2 days after I think 3 days of like protein and fairly high fats, which actually was a really good look in terms of filling out the
Mm.
intramuscular triglycerides and
So
fluid
that the
balance.
protein in the fat days presented quite a good look there.
Yeah, definitely an improved look from
Yes.
from prior to, so basically um the I wasn't really on very high carbs anyway, but the reduction in carb intake, whilst keeping sort of fluids and sodium the same,
Sure.
and moving to like a protein and fat model, it allowed me to kind of fill up on fats to a
Yes.
degree, whilst also sort of drying out.
Right.
So weight was pretty stable throughout that with nice cosmetic improvements. And then the first day of carb loading, pretty much I struggled after, well, from meal one onwards.
Right. Okay.
And a couple of things there. So I'd been starting the day with like a Greek yogurt, like a scoop of oats, some
Yes.
blueberries, raspberries, and banana. And I simply started that day with 2 scoops of oats in that. And actually, post show, I found that the Greek yogurt bloated me just on its own because I did like a Greek yogurt with
Sure.
raspberries and blueberries on its own and had an immediate kind of like digestive kickback. Now, I don't normally have problems with dairy or anything like that, but it's just a bit of a learning that sensitivities kind of creep up
Sure.
through prep because of systemic stress. But that made it hard. The next meal I did was just like a small amount of chicken with sticky rice, and that just sat on top.
Okay.
So those are quite simple, digestible meals. But what you've got there is like quite a large bolus of protein with meal one.
Yes.
So what I won't do next time is actually have any direct protein because obviously with 1,300 grams of carbs, if you say that 10% on average, maybe 7% would be indirect,
Yes.
and it's very you're not really needing protein at that point.
No.
I might have ended up at like, well, while using direct protein at say maybe 200 grams, I might have ended up on like indirect protein at 400 to 500. And
Sure.
nobody in the world is going to think that that digests well as like a huge, you know, a large amount of
Yeah,
calories
yeah.
overall. So day one, I've very much struggled in terms of like the first two meals. And
Sure.
then obviously I kind of clocked onto that and just
Yeah.
moved on to
It's all
like,
data, isn't it? At the end
yeah,
of the
I mean,
day,
I
you need
planned
biofeedback.
anyway, like easier meals for later in the day. Like
Yeah.
the next meal was just simply a bag of Haribo because I had a pump workout,
Good. Yeah, yeah.
some carb powder. Post workout was just going to be some basic cream of rice, but again, that was quite high in terms of fluid volume. So
Yes.
on the second day, basically, I did pretty much all dry carbs,
Yeah.
and that worked a lot better. But I was carrying still a lot of digestive distress from the day before, and I
So it's
feel
almost hard to rectify slightly.
well. What happened around about mid afternoon on the second day was I was the fullest I've ever been in my life, like bursting full.
Yeah.
I was probably about 25 to 30 pound up at that point because my stage weight was actually 25 pound up on
Yeah.
where I started peak week, and that was after sort of most of a day of drying off. So the main thing for me is really to avoid digestive distress in the next peak week,
Yes.
because luckily I do a lot of midsection work and a lot of waist training, and I was able to present like a good waist on stage. But
Well, that was
I
in
was
good
still
stead. Yeah.
fighting not the internal resistance because I'd had one day of kind of like pro fat prior to
Yes.
stage. Because for you guys sort of listening, I think, well, carbing up, let's say you have like a carb dense day, and then go and train the next day, you'll get really good pumps and stuff. But most of those carbs haven't really been digested, and
Mm.
the majority of that pump is actually coming from sugars. And what you'll probably, sorry, from sodium. And what you'll probably find is that plus one day on, you'll actually be much fuller.
Fuller. Yeah.
But yeah, so basically, I was sort of almost still filling out in terms of digesting. This was interesting. I was still digesting and kind of filling out on the Friday from the carbs from Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, that all settled quite well in the end. But because I'd had this sort of severe digestive distress on day one, my diaphragm and everything had been really kind of stretched out. So it was
Yeah.
very, I couldn't pull my normal vacuum. I could pull like 50% of it.
Yes.
And
And
by
you've got a good vacuum, haven't you?
yeah. And so obviously for me to enter super heavyweights from classic, it was like I got some feedback. It was like my posing was best in the lineup, which was cool. And I think that carried me to some degree in terms of the look. I think that the waist control work that I did. So if I hadn't done all of that and then tried to like load, I think my stomach would have looked awful on stage.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but I also believe it can look better because I know how it can look when I don't have any of that internal inflammation. And it's took me about a week to kind of get the full like vacuum back in terms of proprioception. So
Mm.
it was almost like I don't want to say like tissue damage, but in a way, like because my abdominals, diaphragm in particular, had been stretched out to that degree.
Yes.
Again, I'm older, so I'm less. My digestion is less robust.
Yeah. Well, mine too.
And as prep goes on, I do have more. I find it like with the yogurt, things creep up, and it's like I don't mind when I'm on a fucking low day, like yogurt bloating me for an hour.
No.
It's acknowledging that when I start to load, that I can't afford that.
Yes, it's the culmination. It's like the straw that breaks the camel's back, isn't it?
Well, it's almost like um, that's your start of a failure cascade.
Yes, yeah, sure.
So I'd almost have to go, oh, I've got some bloating, and I need to wait until that dissipates before I add more food. You can't really afford to do that when you're loading hard as a super heavyweight.
No,
So
no.
there's a lot more finesse required going into Alicante, just in terms of,
I was going to say, so Alicante, what's the sort of plan of
well,
attack? How
I
you
won't
gonna how you gonna build on that?
I won't, obviously, I do need to fill out, but I also need to protect my digestion and fluid balance. So all of
Mm,
that digestive stress and everything meant I had to put fluid harder, which we did. But I think that would have cost me like a degree of fullness. So it's almost like, well, if I can avoid the digestive distress, then I will avoid some of the fluid retention, which will mean that I can probably stay full, and I'll also be leaner. So
mm,
I'll get more of a cosmetic change, probably from um, the same amount of carbs. There might be maybe spreading them out over 3 days instead of two, but I think two should be adequate. But it's more like,
mm,
rather than being married to like boluses of food, and sort of whole foods meals as we sort of understand it, albeit lower protein, but a small amount of chicken with a large amount of rice sounds okay on paper, and that
yeah.
might be fine if you don't have the initial digestive distress, but that initial meal really was the start of a failure cascade on day one. So what worked better on day two, which recovered me to some degree, was pretty much just take dry carbs and kind of munch on them through the day.
Mm,
So it was kind of moving away from, well, we're going to have like a large bolus of food every 2.5 hours or
yeah.
whatever, in 6 or 7 boluses. It'll be a bit more of like, well, we can do some, a pack of rice cakes with salt, jam, honey, washed down with like, a carbohydrate then dense drink, like all of that stuff. It's almost like your intra workout, maybe
Sure.
pre
Yeah.
and
I've done
post
a version of that before.
strategy, but just spread out over a whole day. Because if I'm leaner, we'll probably be more towards the 1,500 gram carb mark. And like show day morning, I did 300 to 400 carb. I was on stage at 8:30 and I had no issues because I just did, like, overall, I think it was like 2 packs of rice cakes with jam or honey,
Mm,
added salt. I used like a non-stim pump product.
yeah.
I also used the pre-workout for the caffeine to drive diuresis, which actually combined with the sort of adrenaline show day, I was like pretty fucking amped. So I had a great time.
Yeah.
But like I was a bit much, even, for myself. It's like, when you get me that guy in the gym that's just like chewing your ear off.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt like
Oh,
I
he's
felt
here.
like that guy, but I'd had about 10 grams of beta alanine, like,
You're ready to go.
it is what it is.
It's interesting though, isn't it? In the sense it's, and this is like a life lesson as opposed to, well, sort of more general life lesson with the idea of, look, have a solid plan on paper. Or this idea of, only relying on intuition and biofeedback. It's no, you can run up to the brain and sort of try and logically figure out, what on paper looks like a good strategy. But as you follow that plan and you watch it unfold, paying attention in real time to what's going on based on biofeedback and adjusting and adapting
Yeah,
as time goes on, is so
yeah,
crucial.
certainly. So essentially all I did was built out my safe foods, um and then immediately, like from the second meal on, realized actually that wasn't going to be work.
Viable. Yeah, yeah.
And like I say, so on stage day morning, from really like really easy carbs, so I was able to get like 400. I didn't even feel like I'd eaten. Like I don't
Yes.
think, because I did a pro fat day, I think I had like a regular bowel movement in the morning,
Yeah.
and then I don't think I maybe had another bowel movement in the evening after. Obviously I'd had some like food in the afternoon and stuff, but again,
Yeah.
I didn't really go off piste. But I think one, because I haven't dieted that hard yet.
Yeah.
My appetite wasn't that high. I was still quite like, I mean, whose appetite's really high after they've been heavily stimulated? And so
Yeah.
for me, like, I'm sensitive to bright lights, loud noises, and obviously combining that with like caffeine and everything else, and the adrenaline and everything like that. Like, honestly, I was more focused on like winding myself down
Yeah.
than food.
Yeah.
We found this. I was excited because for those guys that don't know, I lived in Vienna for 7 years, which has got a huge Turkish population. They do doner kebabs and things like that really well, and it's something that I miss. So when we were in Maidenhead, we found the German doner kebab restaurant, and they're supposed to like, and it's like kebabs done well and everything like that.
Brilliant.
I went in and they've got the macronutrient information, everything like that. And I'm not having like mayonnaise or fries or
No,
anything
no,
like
sure.
that. But I've always had like this chicken wrap that they do, like and I went for my usual sort of recipe that I would have in Vienna, and it was very underwhelming.
What happened?
Because like I couldn't get the chili, I couldn't get the garlic, the
Yeah.
tang of
Yeah.
yogurt. It was like very like um it was bland by comparison, but it was very soft,
Sure.
digestible.
Yeah.
And I have to say that actually after all the loading, I didn't need um strong flavors. Bland
Sure.
worked really well for me for the
Bland
rest
was
of the
good.
day,
Yeah.
because I'd almost maxed out my tongue's ability to take sweet or salt or
Sure.
sour. And this was another learning, like on day one, because I missed them and I liked them, I'd pick like sour Haribos
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I bet
Well,
your song was wrecked.
well, like, yeah, I mean, a pack of those down, you're not doing another 3-4 packs. So Marks and Spencer's, I went to in Maidenhead to pick up the show day bits. I just got salted rice cakes, but they had like
Yeah.
cola caterpillars and cherries.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, yeah.
And they've not got any sugar on them. They're not sour, and they're quite bland as a sweet. So again, it was like, okay, management of palate, because I was throwing down like a chewing gum or like a black coffee, it almost to kind of reset my palate for more food. So loads of like learnings around, well, how do you take in these large quantities of carbohydrates whilst also managing digestion, whilst managing
Yeah.
palate, managing blood sugar, all those kind of things. So that's essentially, and I've got travel for Alicante. This is another thing as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So just thinking about how you do that in the context of travel, maybe arriving into anywhere between 30 and 40-degree heat. There's a fair
It's
amount
a
of
different landscape, isn't it? Literally, the whole
mm,
run up to it's different.
yeah.
The environment's different.
I mean, I don't want to fly with digestive distress at all.
No, that would suck for
Um,
everyone.
so, well, ideally, you want to fly on like pro fat.
Yes.
So I'll be talking with Joe about like what day I should fly on, because that could be prior to loading. If you think about
Mm,
it, like on the final pro fat day, that'd be an easy day
that's a
to
good
fly.
idea.
Or it could be the day before the show, which is pro fat as well. But then you've got like the stress of like
Mm,
registration, unpacking, and all of that. So I think I'll probably fly out approximately 3 days before the
yeah.
show on like a pro fat day. And I know Alicante well enough that I can source food. So I know now that like whites, bread products, muffins, rice cakes, honey jam, etc. Uh, I mean, I can get all that stuff there real easy. Spain's actually quite good for fitness foods generally.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just like, okay, my normal pattern. um, doesn't want building out. It kind of wants flipping into. It's almost honestly, if you could just. I know everyone looks forward to loading and stuff like that, but not on that amount of food. If you could give me like 600 grams as like of carbs as like a glucose IV, I would probably take that.
You freaking take it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I'll just plug that in overnight. Have like 4 normal meals.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things for people where in their heads,
Maybe I
especially if they've
will
been
then.
dieting so long, the idea of it's like, but then reality quickly sets in. You're like, this isn't fun. I don't
Yeah,
like the way this feels at all.
yeah, and your food focus is higher as well. So when you're
Yeah,
like building out, oh, no, okay, this is how I'm going to load. Are you doing that from like an emotional place
yeah,
of emotional attachment? Because I obviously the way that I eat, I enjoy. That's why it's
yes,
sustainable. So just have more of the foods that I enjoy makes sense, right? And I know they digest well. Well,
yeah.
there's a volume equation there that I figured out quite rapidly. Um, and yeah, that's just the main point, really, is just to uh, kind of evade. And it makes me wonder as well. When they're talking about obviously the pro bodybuilders and they're looking
Mm,
good, and then they step on stage and it's like the midsection's a problem. I wonder, well, how much sort of internal resistance these big guys fighting? It's definitely like a loading issue, and which is interesting to me because it's like another little puzzle to solve in my physique development journey.
mm,
So I feel like a lot of learning and a lot of opportunity came out of that, which is great because it's like, well, I presented well, I got good feedback, it was good look, and I know I'll be a lot leaner, and I know that I can manage the loading better. So to already have like a good presentation and then
yes,
time but like also to know that, well, actually I know that I can present a smaller waist, and I know that I'll be more conditioned. And to be honest with you, that I think that's enough with my size. So even if I was like 80% full, um, but with a smaller waist and
yeah,
an extra 8 weeks of dieting, um, but it's a bigger show. So in short,
yeah, yeah.
it was
Go
a
on.
majority of it was just like um, fixing, yeah, basically just learning how to load as a super heavyweight. Because classic, you always had a weight limit, and I
Sure.
was honestly like I didn't even load for the last 2 shows. I
Yes.
I was off. I was off
Just
fluids
wander
and
on.
food, and the reason why I decided to move up was because what's the point in presenting a very subpar look, right?
Sure.
I'd rather be the smallest guy in a super heavyweight lineup, but it'd be my best ever look. And let's
Exactly.
be
Yeah.
clear, this was still my best ever stage look.
Yes.
And again, to if you've presented your best ever stage look and you're like, I can't identify a single opportunity there, okay, go back to off season and start working.
Yeah.
I know that with more dieting and a little bit more of a educated approach, just through experience, I've got all these learnings from this peak week about what's going on with my food sources and so on, that are like pro fat, like absolutely nailed, because
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
that's my
it's
that's my
what I
jam.
run on. Yeah.
That's my jam. But carbs are tricky for me.
Carbs are always seem to be the bit of the puzzle that again with myself in the past and with clients, it's they all run, and myself included, well off pro fats. Now, carbs you need in the mix, but what doesn't bloat you? What can you digest? How much do you need? And I think that has become more and more obvious over time of the trickier part of the puzzle to navigate.
Yeah,
But like on the whole, fattier sort of like eggs seem to digest well generally, and like kind of maybe not super lean beef seems people have no problems with. Leafy greens, fruits seem to go well. It's
yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's just that narrative of like What is your body used to at that point?
Mm,
Now you're kind of going to flip a switch, right? And you're going to go aggressively in a different trajectory. And so, like, of course, white rice digests fine for me, and it digests well in the off season in pretty
yeah, yeah,
large quantities and so on. Um, but yeah, your body's in a bit of a different position, and it's just like even your stomach's smaller,
sure, yeah, yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
So your
I
your
mean,
sense of weight
everything
is
you've said makes me again, cogs are always turning. So I've got my show in 19 weeks, and I'm in decent condition at the moment, like more than ready on the timeline. And
you could compete now.
yeah, yeah, I think I could bring an okay look now. And I aim to be obviously a lot better, but I'm in almost two minds as to whether just to keep getting better condition, bit more, gnarly, bit fuller, and just not almost walk on stage like that, but removing those variables in the sense of I know in the morning I'm flat. I know after a couple of meals and a good pump, I fill out well. I know my waist will be smaller. I just,
Yeah.
for me, it's always been about, I think I'd rather, maybe it's a psychological, my psychology thing where I'd almost rather be 80%, 85% of great and not shoot for the extra. Maybe that's my
Mm.
poor thinking.
Well, it's well, just the only thing there is like if you think about, well, let's say you are quite depleted, you're in good
Yeah,
condition and everything, and you have like a carb meal and train the next day, or you have a
yeah,
carb meal, salt meal, and go train, you get good pump and everything like that.
yeah, yeah,
You'll be going flat towards the end of that workout. There'll be
sure.
moments where you look like you feel, but you're going to have to hold that through multiple. Like I was on stage for a total of about 4 hours from like 8:30. I think we got off actually around 11:30 in the end.
Good Lord, yeah.
And my look was getting better, and that was one, I was drying out because of the posing, but two, I was fully loaded, so
Yes,
there was no chance of
yes,
flattening out. So flat will make you look soft as well. So
yeah, yeah,
it's you can't, although you can apply a meal and get like a short-term cosmetic outcome. Actually, I really feel like this is just a salt thing. Um, but then just expand that, like,
sure.
and it's okay. Well, that one meal gives me 20 minutes of sort of pump and sort of
Yeah,
cosmetic fullness. So I might need to do that small pump meal 2, 3 times on show day. But
sure.
prior to that, you'll need to have all of your muscles like full and everything like that.
No, that's valid.
With filling out will come an element of fluid retention. So there is a drying off period, whether that's overnight or I actually took more like 36 hours,
Yeah,
right? So I had like 2 nights to dry off, which like the amount of fluid that I shifted was very encouraging as well because it tells me how much I can dry out, how much I can push loading, and so on. And as I say, I feel like there would have been less fluid if I'd made better food choices with those first couple of meals, didn't get backed up on day one, and so on. So for yourself, linear loads work well in lean
mm,
individuals. Uh,
yes,
there's an element of pulling back towards the end of a linear load, of course. Loading hard straight into a show probably won't yield the driest look. So then you can't push for maximum fullness either.
yeah.
So like it's going to be
I almost think I'd be okay. I remember Jay Cutler saying something along the lines of look, you get one, and this is Jay Cutler, you get one perfect peak in your career, and it's almost like the stars aligned where you are big and you are peeled, and all the rest you're sort of either slightly too full or too lean. And it's like he might be wrong, but it's Jay Cutler. And I always took that on board and thought, well, look, if he's
yeah,
saying that, look, it's hard to absolutely nail it, I'd almost not try and
yeah.
chase the unicorn.
No, I mean, Joe said to me, it's very, very hard to nail maximum fullness and
Yeah.
maximum dryness.
Yes.
So I would always choose dryness over maximum
Me
fullness.
too. Yeah.
So
Me too.
again, it's just not pushing food right up to the wire. But definitely, like for my size now, like I definitely have to push like a decent amount of food
Yeah.
to fill out at all. And even like when I did classic, like because I wouldn't nowadays, I'm not eating like 12,000 calories a day for the first 3 days post show, etc. Um, so like over a couple of weeks, I would fill out and soften up a little bit, but there'd probably be about 1 week to 10 days post show of like moderate carbs, moderate, all that kind of stuff, like
Yeah.
almost on your maintenance calories, where I'd be like, oh, that's a much better look.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's just usually that I've never had a really a peak week before. I've had like a burger and fries because I was under the cap. I've had no food because I was over the cap. Like it's like, well, actually, you've got this whole week to fill out. And I just want to do that with the minimum amount of systemic stress possible. And that was a factor that I hadn't really considered was would well, I didn't really understand how much fucking food I would need to fill out. I like
Yeah. And
um
you don't do you until
you
you try
know
it. You
no,
just don't.
like I knew a day in advance how much carbs I was going to need for the first day of loading and so on. Because obviously going day by day, you have to be flexible in that regard. So I just found a different approach, which again um, I'll execute. So should be a
Yeah.
better look.
I've got a hypothetical question for you. So let's say hypothetically somebody has a show on Saturday. Let's talk, extremely general. Would you do, for example, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pro fat, high day Thursday, moderate day Friday, and then eat normally on show day? Would that be a
And
reasonable protocol?
depends on their food demands. Like for
Yeah.
bikini, um, you might um, probably find that like 400-500 gram of carbs is going to fill out.
Yeah.
So I like having a low day prior to show in terms of
Okay.
carbs. I think that works well, which means that you need to be full prior to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether that takes 2 or 3 days, depending on the individual. So remember that glycogen's going to take about 36 hours, 48 hours to really land.
Okay.
And you want to be able to dry off a bit. So I would say that the last loading of carbs is probably for a Saturday show is probably on the Thursday.
Yeah.
So you've got like Wednesday and Thursday to play with, depending on the demand needed. Now, in terms of fat loading, again, if you're going to do it that way, which is a nice way to do it,
Mm.
that's also going to be like 2 or 3 days, depending
Yeah.
on the size of the individual. So I did 3 days fat loading, 2 days carb loading, and then another pro fat day, which was the same as a fat loading day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that in terms of like fullness and so on, I think probably about right for me. Especially to hold the look for all that. I mean, God, across masters and supers with individual routines and so on, it is a long time to
It
kind of
is. Yeah. Very
hold
long.
fullness and dryness. So yeah, you definitely don't want to be still digesting a large amount of food, and you definitely don't want to be um, flattening out as well.
As that might
Yeah,
be me.
well, you'll be so lean based on
Yeah.
your current position that again, you probably like you might achieve like very, very lean, and then it's simply a case of it might be just eating up into the show. You might be able to do from a couple of weeks out.
Yeah.
You
Well,
might just
that's
be
my view.
eating
It's
closer
almost,
to maintenance, but it's
yeah,
again like with your timeline, you'll do a trial week.
yeah.
Now, I didn't have nor
No, your
conditions
time
nor the
frame was shorter.
timeline
Yeah.
because again, like well, in a way, this was my trial, right?
Yes.
What
Yeah.
went well, what didn't go so well, and it was like, well, I got more edema from loading than I would have liked, and that was probably because of digestive distress, which this is correctable. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend being ahead of schedule so that you can trial a load. I definitely recommend that if you're in shape as well, that you run like a couple of high days a week
Yeah.
so you can see, how much you fill out of, say, like the leaner you get, the more you can afford like a bigger high day
Yes.
or 2 days consecutively, and then you'll see how you look. And I just think that if you achieve an acceptable look in that regard, just do that in your peak week,
Yeah.
and you should be fine. There's some things that's just like, I think pretty straightforward when you're lean is that you shouldn't really need diuretics. You shouldn't need to pull sodium. You shouldn't be loading last minute. Um,
There's a
yeah,
key there, though, isn't there? Get bloody lean. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. That
it's
I mean, I've had a lot of like sort of, I don't want to say like meatheads in the gym, but it's like the first bodybuilding show. They use gear, um, and they were a week out, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm just holding a lot of fluid," and I'm like I
no,
can't even
no,
see your abs, man. Like
no.
that's not fluid. You're
You've
not
got a
pulling.
chub. Yeah.
Yeah, you fat,
Yeah.
and actually in some cases, like very noticeably fat,
Mm,
as in nowhere near stage lean,
no,
nowhere near cosmetically lean.
no,
So if you um if you can't see detail in all the muscles, you're not lean.
no.
That when you dry off, it's more um it's a fractional amount. You sort of see it in the lower back and posterior.
Mm.
Um, but you should look virtually like you should look peeled when you're flat.
Yeah.
All right. When you fill out, you'll look more peeled
Yeah.
as long as you don't overdo it and get into like fluid retention. Um, but even so, like if you're fucking peeled, where are you going to hold fluid?
I see it all the time, you know, and again, it's like you say, I'm holding water. I think it's the compounds that I'm using. It's like when you're peeled, it's like you're just peeled. I mean,
Yeah.
you're just shredded, you know. It's like it's there's nowhere for it to hold. There's nothing you can particularly grab. You're just there. It's a and like you say, you can fill it out.
And like food affects your fluid balance to a degree, but sodium far more.
Mm,
So if you're keeping your sodium consistent, then I don't really see how you can spill unless yeah, you move into like severe digestive distress or
mm,
even so, like dried off just fine. Um, my main issue was that because of the digestive distress, I wasn't able to pull my midsection in as tight as I would like, although it was pretty damn good for supers.
yeah,
It's frame of reference, isn't it? I'm not the biggest guy, so
yeah.
I kind of like benefit from having a smaller waist or as small a waist as possible.
It's one of your strengths. Yeah,
Well, I have to in a way because
yeah,
even at I was 255 pound at weigh-ins,
yeah.
right? Which probably quite a bit heavier than some of the guys, but I'm taller. So they have got more,
How
you
tall are you?
know. I think they measured me at like 187. 188. I can't remember. I'm about 6'1.5", but it
Okay.
changes. It changes every fucking time you go to a weigh-in. Quite a few of the classic guys missed weight as
All
well.
right.
Some of them had their own scales and they were on weight. And they
Yeah,
went back
yeah.
in and they were like 3 kilo over.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there was a general consensus that the scales at the show were weighing heavy. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know about that. So I might not have been 255. I might have been
Yeah,
on my scales 250. It doesn't really
yeah.
fucking matter at that point,
Well,
that is the
all
great thing
irrelevant.
about
Yeah,
open is I didn't have to fucking do shit other than register and weigh in.
yeah,
And I'd be like, oh yeah, cool. I see 116 kilo. That's cool. I've never been that weight this lean.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was well, honestly, I was well happy. I was happy with my placing,
Yes.
happy with my
Well,
look.
you look superb. Yeah,
But
of
it's all like relative to where you're at. And I'm like,
course.
I'm happy to present that knowing that it can be better, if you
Yeah.
know what I mean.
If that's your first shot and you know that ultimately, at least on paper, it's going to like that's the worst you will look, that's a good
Yeah,
position to be in.
right. Obviously, I'm dieted, but not dieted.
No, sure.
So
Yeah.
that's also
There's runway, isn't there, to improve?
yeah. I've had like a week of like I say, sort of post show normalization, and I think probably on checking on Wednesday, um, food order. Although I can't tell if I've got. I'm still holding quite a bit of my weight. I can't
Yeah.
actually tell. I think I've actually got a bit leaner, but I don't know if
Okay.
it's just that fullness
Sure.
equation. But I do
Yes. Yeah.
know that I'm in a good position going into more aggressive fat loss. I'm not sure if it's actually going to be, do we need to do aggressive fat loss at this stage?
No.
Should I, probably not a huge
How many
deficit.
weeks till Alicante again?
Sorry.
How many weeks?
9 weeks. So
9 weeks.
8 weeks of dieting, really,
Yes. Yeah.
which
Okay.
doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm already quite lean. And I
I
got
was
very,
going to say,
I dropped 35 pounds in 6 weeks. So
yeah, you're in a good position for it. You don't need to start like that again, do you? Be more
I
like
don't think
my
I
weight.
could. I think honestly, like that would probably equate to like a 2,000 calorie a day deficit. I don't think I could sustain that in terms of like fatigue and performance.
Yes.
I think it would literally take me all fucking day to just get my expenditure done and have a shit
Yes.
training session. Um, and you just slow down in other areas. So
Without yeah, like without even realizing, do you? You just your
if you're
overall
aware
energy.
of it, you know it. But
Yeah.
try fucking doing anything about it. And you sat on the toilet dead after a training session.
Slumped.
You just, I can't fucking get up here. And you do eventually.
Yeah.
But again, you've only got a certain amount of motivation in you as
Of
well.
course.
So like
That
getting,
override, that ability to sort of pick yourself up and keep going
yeah, yeah, right.
like a battery. Yeah.
Yeah. So eventually, like I just think that your body fights you. And most people like with normal diets, right? They normally get like 3, 4 good weeks, and then it all sort of comes to a standstill.
Yeah.
And it's not normally for want of trying. Your body starts fighting you in different ways. You get hungry, you
Yeah.
get tired, you start moving slower. Um, if you're not like enhanced or like propped up hormonally, um, then you're going to get like obviously like hormonal decline and stuff.
Pushback.
It's like
Yeah.
your body's just not meant to go exotically lean, and it
No.
will fight you doing that at the cost of muscle mass. And again, like it's just picking yourself up, and you are obviously going to accumulate fatigue. You are going to feel tired. You're going to feel a bit, well, sometimes very crap. It's kind of minimizing that as much as possible. So definitely taking your time, being able to have periodic sort of refeeds or be it
Yeah.
maintenance.
I
So yeah,
think. Yeah.
having
I
this
think
week
that the yeah
kind of
the big
peak week's like a deload and refeed in a
yeah.
way, and then you
Yes.
go
Yes.
go
That's
a
a good
little
way of
bit
looking at it.
post show. Yeah. Um, so that's almost been my like little deload and diet break as well. And so to get
That's yeah.
qualification box stuff. I think it's quite a good strategy, actually. I would do it again. Like I
Yeah.
say, I would just start, I would fucking start my peak week loading with Greek yogurt and oats. It was fucking,
Movement
it was a
one.
really
Yeah.
fucking bad choice, and it fucked me up.
Straight out of the gate. Yeah. Yeah. I think
Now
for
I'll do what I did on show day, is I wake up early and I smashed a whole pack of rice cakes with honey, jam, salt,
yeah, perfect.
some Haribo, and a strong coffee. Um, like it was nothing. I was
Yeah.
250 carbs done.
Yeah.
Done.
Easy. Yeah.
Meanwhile, on fucking 100 grams of carbs, I can't even put
Yeah.
more food because I've picked what works well for dieting yourself. And I didn't think one meal could fuck you that hard when you're
But
trying
it
to
did.
load, but it can.
My notes say now it can fuck you that hard.
I
Yeah.
feel like
It,
the next loads is literally going to be like get 10 packs of rice cakes, jam, honey, salt, maybe um a couple of like savory items as well in there. So like bagels with
you know, this is what I love about bodybuilding, though, or maybe it's just life in general. That if you're not, you don't fucking die, you get to have another go at that. But you've learned stuff. Like I used to love computer games, and I still do. It's like you die at the end of a level. Ah, God, that plant got me, or that zombie got me. It's like, right, I'll redo the level, and this time I'll know. It's like, so you get a redo, and you get to say, right, I learned a lot there. Not doing yogurt and oats. That's out. I'm doing this.
so yeah, and it's like, well, all right, I look pretty good, and I got good feedback, and
Yeah, yeah,
I feel like on the day, um, like I probably could have looked even better, and so I've got that banked as opportunity, and 8 more weeks to diet as
exactly.
opportunities. So that's pretty fucking cool. Um, with it being an Olympia show in Spain, it'd be a big show, big, hopefully a big stage and everything. So I do want to present my best ever look again.
Yeah,
But I also kind of want to feel like there wasn't any opportunity to be better on that day.
sure.
And if there is, it'd be fractional, and I'll be able to refine it for Portugal, Romania, and I've got 8 weeks to refine further for Las Vegas, and then I should fucking be able to produce that for Milan. And I mean, of course, this is a long season, so we don't know how the body's gonna handle
Sure.
all of
Yeah, yeah.
that. But once you lead, I think fatigue's easier to manage as well. So getting down to this point was probably the hard bit.
So,
And I did that pretty easy. Literally, the hardest bit of my prep was eating to peak.
that was the nasty
That's the
bit.
only week where I've been like fucking miserable,
Yeah, yeah.
struggling.
And people would think that that's
Dysfunctional.
party time. It was like you'd be rubbing your hands time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's crazy. I think I've got one objective for my show is that basically no two. Uh, I'm the best I've ever been, and I enjoy it. And I don't, like I say, I don't mean enjoy it
that's
like
what I
shit,
wanted.
running around high fiving everyone, but just like I love that experience. I was the best I ever looked. I don't care where I place. Genuinely,
Yeah,
like I don't care. But I want to have a good time, and I want to look back and say that was easily the best I've ever looked. And
yeah,
then if I love it, I want to do it again the following year, and I'll aim to be the next version of Alex.
yeah. This was actually the first time actually out where I really felt credible as well, like
Good. Yeah,
chatting and
yeah,
backstage. So I was always the guy looking at the other guys and being like, "Oh fuck, you look really good, mate. You
yeah,
look
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
good." Um, I wasn't the guy that was like that had forgotten to diet. Um, but
Always a good thing.
yeah, but for sure, I'd be like going back and be like, "Oh no." Now I know going back with the rest of the supers, like I know I'm not the best or anything like that, but there's a bit, and and they're going to me, "Oh, you look really good." I
Yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I've got a different look, haven't I? Like I'm not your typical super.
No, no.
And I think it's quite do you know the the girl that kind of walks out on stage and everything like that. Because I've got blue eyes, and offset against that tan, it almost looks like I've got some kind of contact lenses in. And
Yeah, yeah.
she was like, I think as I went off after the supers, she was like, your eyes are really fucking blue, or like your eyes are really beautiful, or something like that. Which obviously is contrast, isn't it? And I noticed the judges were looking a lot when I was posing and everything like that. It seemed, and I had nice feedback. It seemed to me that they liked the sort of look, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure when I get the feedback, they're going to say I need more size. I'd expect that.
But
Um,
structurally, they liked you.
I think so, and I think we like. Do you know what's funny as well? Like since I've been on stage, my posing's got better. Um, I don't. It's like a confidence thing.
Mm,
I feel like my flow, my confidence in the poses has improved. Like my uncertainty maybe around
diminished. Yeah,
presentation
yeah.
is kind of turned into like a bit more. And it did on the show day. Like honestly, for masters, we were on early, and I hadn't even like pumped up, and they were like, "Right, you'll be up next." You go and sort of like start pumping up in the queue. We didn't get a brief for masters of like what we were doing, like you normally do. Um, I thought I was about to do my posing routine, and it was like 30 minutes of freestyle. So it's a bit like deer in the
Oh,
headlights moment.
yeah.
But
Jesus.
anyway, by the time I'd done all the fucking rounds in masters, individual routine, gone on with the supers, come back with the show. By the end, I was like properly enjoying posing.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you first go out there, like, fuck, the lights were so bright. I couldn't see shit. I didn't even
Oh
know where the
man,
judges were. I didn't know what. I mean, I've been on
you're
stage before,
scaring me now. I
so
don't like the sound of
like,
this.
well, I mean, like, we're going to mandatories. This is like,
Yeah,
I
it
know
kicks
it,
in. Yeah.
but yeah, it threw me a bit when they wanted like 30 seconds of freestyle. I had no idea they were going to ask for that, but it was probably somewhere in the information that
Yeah,
happens.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm glad that was all out of the way in the regional. And like I say, having all of that time on stage, like I definitely recommend entering multiple classes. Um, like if you can,
Yeah.
you can do as many classes as you can, because you get like experience every time. And even like, so once I'd clocked on, oh, this is how they're running the show. Um, I was able to just like move into my confident posing and pose and
Yes.
enjoy. It was like, okay, like, and now next time I go out, it'll be like, oh, I know what's going on now. And I've done a whole bunch of European shows where they're saying things in weird accents. Like the first time they introduced classic physique in the what's now the IFBB Elite, we'd done classic bodybuilding before. One of the mandatory poses was a vacuum, which isn't in IFBB Pro League.
No.
But I remember like one of the judges was like, vacuum,
What?
vacuum. And people were like, what the fuck do you want?
This is a
And
different
then,
pose.
and some of the guys just did like an abs and thigh and everything like that. And some of the guys couldn't hit a vacuum. And the guy announced, and he was like, if you can't hit a vacuum, you should be in a bodybuilding class and stuff like that. And it was weird. And like, it's classic. So like I hit like a classic side tricep.
Yeah.
Was like a little bit off stance, and the girl on stage was like no, side tricep, side tricep, and I'm like, what the fuck do you think I'm hitting here? Like, what you think
What
is
do
a
you
side
think
tricep?
this
What I
is?
think is a, it's like, I mean, fuck you, ask Arnold to hit a side tricep at the 1980 Olympia. He fucking hit a chest shot.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
he didn't do shit. He was told. So it was like, I don't know, like all the stage experience, just kind of, okay, I know what they want, I know what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do, I know how this goes. So the
It's
most
confidence
relaxed
building.
guys really were the supers, because
Yes.
to get there, they've been out loads.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so that whole like we were all pretty chilled. We knew what to do. Da-da-da. Like I say, I was a bit thrown by the 30 seconds of freestyle, because nobody told me you're going to
No.
do mandatories and then you're going to do 30-second freestyle. Then you're going to leave stage, and then you're going to come back later, do your individual routine, and then you're going to come back later and you'll be in another category. And it was like, so when you get So normally you do your mandatories and then your posing routine, or you do posing routine and then your mandatories.
Yeah.
Whatever. So you have your individual and then your comparisons.
Yeah.
I actually had two individuals, like a 30-second freestyle and then my planned posing routine. That was kind of new to me. I've not had that before. So I was like, a bit thrown by it. But also I've practiced the fuck out of my posing. So when she comes up and it's like, no, it's 30 seconds of freestyle. Well, okay, front lat spread, boom, side chest, boom, side tricep. Now, if I'd been prepared, I'd have hit my favorite classic shots, which is what I want to do. I got now, like, what the fuck do you think I'm going to do in Alicante? It's like, I'm not going to be like front relax. So, I'm going to be like, if I've got 30 seconds, I'm going to show you my fucking 6 best poses. And none of my shit ones.
0 shit poses. Yeah, totally.
So I mean, go to, like, honestly, if you're going on stage for the first time and you're not sure what to do, just hit your best fucking pose until you figure out what's going on.
Hold that and look around. I think that'll be my little
even if they call side chest and you don't understand, hit your best fucking pose, whatever that is, and they'll come up to you and they'll say, oh, side chest, and you go, okay, now I'm into at least you've not stood there like a knob.
Like looking around.
No. And actually, and also I didn't get to hit some of the shots I wanted to hit. So as they walked us off, I just stopped and hit like 3 classic shots in the middle of the stage. And I started to feel like, hey, I'm like, I want to present for the audience. I felt like, this is stage performance, So that was kind of like cool to remember after that kind of deer in the headlights moment, after 3 years off stage, to kind of remember you're here to enjoy yourself.
Yes, you've worked hard to get to.
Not fear of judgment, not worry about what anybody else is thinking or what anybody else looks like, but to just do your thing and enjoy the time.
Enjoy it,
And I don't give a fuck if I'm not supposed to stop as we're walking off and hit a fucking twisted double. Like, I wanted to, so I did. And why not? Like, what are they going to do?
Dock your marks, it wrestle you off. It's like, enjoy it, man. It's what it's what you worked hard for. You don't want to get too in your own head. And
Arnold, like, I think he was on stage for comparisons, and they're like done, and he says to the other guy, "Okay, we're done. We go." And then the other guy walks off stage, and Arnold turns around and started hitting more poses, And so he's, this is a good example, I think, of like doing your own. Obviously, you're not going to be like disrespectful, behaving like a knobhead or anything like that.
No.
But just be like confident enough to like have presence.
Yes, it's having presence, not shrinking away, not like you're meant to be on stage. You're meant to be showcasing what you've worked hard for. You're not meant to be withering away and uber fearful. It's
it did help that I had pre-workout.
A lot of pre-workout, lots of stims.
No, I had like
you have a pump on
pre-workout, but I think I had like 2 scoops of a pump product on top of that.
Right.
So, and Joe used the hot stuff on my glaze for supers. So by this point, I've got like triple dose of beta alanine tingling, plus like some deep heat tingling, plus excitement in me. I had a fucking brilliant time, but I was pretty much off my tits.
might be the best way to be. Yeah, sounds amazing.
Not gonna lie, I was like riding a massive high. And like I say, I wasn't concerned about food the rest of the day, more just like bringing myself down emotionally. And I had a really good night's sleep, I must admit. And then, I got up and early, and I did some yoga, and I had a nice breakfast.
Beautiful.
Sort
Yeah.
of set on my way, stopped at Waitrose, got a couple of packs of sushi, for the drive, on the drive back and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just dead chilled. So yeah, it was good. I'm looking forward to like having a bit of a holiday with
Yeah.
the other shows. Great. Like I want to spend time and enjoy not just the stage experience, but also visiting different cities.
No,
So the
the
reason
beauty of the
for me to go
cities.
to
Yeah.
Europe and not repetitive, like see if I was trying like for a pro card, and just keep going out in like UK events, like in you're close to it and everything. It's a bit more like you're going to work, right?
Sure.
Whereas this year for me, it's more of a segue into supers for the first time. So this year is more like get lots of stage experience, see how you look with the bigger boys, find your presence,
Yes. Yeah.
your stage identity in a way, because I actually, like I want to when I've got the size, I don't want to be chasing my ass in any other respect. I want to be like right there. So yeah,
Sounds living the dream. And I quite like to compete abroad and stuff like that. It
why not? It's not
sounds a
hard.
beautiful thing to do.
It's not hard. Just do it. You just enter a foreign show and go.
Shouldn't I?
Why not?
Self-limiting belief, mate. Self-limiting belief. Do York first of all. I'll do Scunthorpe and then I'll go further
York's a
abroad.
nice city.
York's beautiful.
Scunthorpe's questionable.
Yeah, no, I'll do York first, but I think what you're doing sounds amazing. Getting to visit beautiful places and do the thing you love. Don't get a lot better than that.
What's his bodybuilding? And this is the point as well. Like, don't get lost in the outcome.
Yeah,
You can't get the journey back. So you can have an enjoyable bodybuilding journey. You just have to, like you said, with limiting beliefs there, but like why not make it an experience? Why can't it be multiple things? Why do you
yeah,
need
yeah,
to feel like death? Why do you need to feel like shit? All that kind of stuff. Take your time, plan your calendar well, plan enjoyable experiences. And I'm competitive. I want to win. But at the same time, this year, I'm kind of free of that pressure because it's like, you're definitely not going to be the biggest guy on stage, but I can have like good conditioning and good presentation and good experiences. And when I do have the mass, which is an inevitability, because I'm still growing. And in fact, like I said to you, I don't know if I said it on the pod or before when we started, since the show, I'm like holding a good 10 pound up with the same
yes,
sort of
yes,
condition. Now, I've no doubt I'm going to start to deplete again, but I'm quite big at this condition. So, but I also probably need like 30 pound more. But it's not that big of a disparity as I thought in terms of size.
yes.
Like I think I'll be more competitive than I realize with like just 10 pound more in the right places.
Sure, in the right places, crucially. Yeah, yeah,
Because when you like see like Seabum next to Rami
yeah,
and you think, fuck, he looks big actually. He's in his own class, and I think he looks big at like 240. And of course, he's got an amazing structure and everything like that. But it's like um, the weight. The weight isn't the only thing. I've got quite a wide V taper, and I need to make it wider. I've got quite a small waist, and I'm going to work
yeah.
hard to make it smaller. And continue to build out that X frame really, but I think the cosmetic effect of like 10 more pounds will have more impact on placing than I realized. I thought it'd be like
Yeah.
I need 30 pound before I'm remotely.
No, what you say is right. I mean, like weight's obviously a thing, but like for example, I weigh nothing, but I don't look like I weigh nothing. Now I don't look big, but like kind of I weigh what a normal bloke would weigh, but the way my structure is, because certain bits of it are tiny, it looks decent. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so 10 extra pounds on me would
Yeah.
revolutionize me. But it's only, it's just
I,
£10. It's like, yeah,
I
but in the right places.
I also feel like we're heavily misled by the numbers equated.
Oh,
Like
yes. Yeah.
I
Everyone sticks on
I
£20,
don't I don't think any fucker was 6 foot, £300. Well, like, listen, take 2 or 3 inches off and
Yeah,
like at least £20.
yeah, yeah. That's more realistic. Yeah.
The way you're looking and you're like, I'm 225 and I'm 5'10", and he's on stage there, and they say he's 5'11" and he's £300. So I've got to gain £75
Of
pro
tissue.
caliber physique. It's bullshit.
Yeah,
He's
it's
probably
nonsense.
5'7",
Yeah.
250, which is significant.
Yeah, it's
But
not nothing. Yeah.
but some of the
But
numbers,
it's like everything. It's like the myths that are created. It's like
yeah.
when the old school guys give you the PED cycles and Lee Priest is like a lick to D ball, and I was massive and jacked, and you're like,
I find it hard.
really?
Well, he's got. I mean, he didn't really lie. He tends
No, he
to,
doesn't. He doesn't. But
overshare things that people would normally not share.
no, keep that
Um,
to yourself. Yeah.
and remember, he's a smaller dude.
Oh, and he would he win Mr. Australia in his teens. I mean, naturally,
Yeah,
he was
like
like
probably
phenomenal.
natural.
Yeah.
Like
Maybe he was a bad choice,
no,
but do you know what I mean?
they're all hyper responders.
Yeah.
Um, but you basically, like, if you don't have the genetic response to 500 milligrams of gear and you look amazing, a gram, 2 grams, 3 grams isn't.
Ain't gonna make me.
That's not
Yeah.
going to bring about a pro caliber physique. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, say, Samson um, uses around a gram of gear
Mhm.
for competitions.
Yeah.
Maybe like, if you're not including orals or something like that around peak week. I mean, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if pro level gear use is fairly accurate what they're saying. So when they say, yeah, I'm doing like just 750 test and 500 mast and like a Winnie a day, just remember that that's about 2 grams of gear, and it's quite a lot. Anyway,
Yeah.
like, more than that, what's it going to do?
Yeah, well, this is it. Where's it going to go as well? And I think,
You're not food.
yeah,
You're not food. And when you have got food, you wouldn't need much gear, would you? You're only going to grow
no.
tissue at like a maximal rate. There's
I
no
think yeah,
there's no hacking that. Once it's hacked, that's it. It's just
yeah.
fine.
Once that avenue's pushed, I think what people really struggle with, especially men, is the fact that, excuse me, they'll take 2 grams of gear, let's say, for example, and they'll say, well, Samson Dowder. So the difference between me and Samson Dowder is that he's on 3 grams and I'm on 2. That's why I don't look like him. Or it'll be something like that. And the reality is if I'm 5'7", but if I went to the NBA,
That's
I'd see
probably
a
five
basket.
five actually.
Well, in reality, come on, 5'4'7". But if I went
Shit,
to the NBA,
like,
there'd be guys there
genetically
who were 7 foot
speaking, of
tall.
midgets.
Yeah. There'd be guys who are 7 foot tall. So the individual height's a very obvious one where it hits you over the head, like 5'7", 7 feet. It's like, shit, you're way bigger than me. But because sort of drug response and response to food and response to training isn't as blindingly obvious as that, we sort of forget about it. Like, no, that guy is like the 7 foot guy,
I
bodybuilding wise.
I think that what it requires genetically, there's four genetic components in order to be a high level pro bodybuilder. And if you haven't got those, you will not be a high level pro
No,
bodybuilder, no matter how hard you work. You can be a mediocre pro. That's it. And those genetic components start off with: one, you're a hyper responder to anabolic steroids.
yes,
Two, you're a hyper responder to resistance training. Three, you're a hyper responder to food. And four, you are bulletproof to stressors.
yeah.
You're a chilled individual.
Like you said before, the top tier guys are just relaxed, like out of the gym, they're like, it's fine.
Yeah. And then, but I also mean that in like I obviously experience stress response to food, right? Quite profoundly, like IBS triggers and things. So that's a limiting factor for me, but I believe it's manageable. In terms of gear response, I would say I'm like above a normal response. Certainly not a hyper responder. In terms of resistance training response, I'd say I'm a pretty normal responder. In terms of food response, I'd say I'm probably under. Like, if I, because the boys laugh as well. They're like, because if I go on holiday and I don't like push food, I come back like looking quite peeled. So, so my default is more ectomorphic.
Yes, yeah.
So I have to push food quite hard all the time. So even in prep, my food's not low,
No.
but the deficit's big.
Yes.
And that's a bit of a weird thing in terms of like managing digestion, right? It's like a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm struggling to eat all my food. And how much you on? Like 3,000 calories, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, if I eat 3,000 calories, I'm getting fucking linearly shredded.
Oh,
Right.
it fascinates me that,
I think I'm
things
on
like that. So,
3,700 or something this week. And I seem to be because I'm still normalizing, but I think I'm in like a moderate deficit on that. I'm not
yeah.
hard, but I'm definitely starting to see fluid shift towards that. It's almost like a moderate diet.
Yeah.
That you'd start like a Gen Pop client on or something like that. So an aggressive diet for me is still quite high food. So it's always a
But
factor.
both of our metabolisms are bananas, though. Like I'm peeled on 3,000. Peeled. I'm lean on
Got it.
3,500. But well, if I go anywhere close to 3,000, my sleep gets disrupted. Like I start like waking up at like 1 in the morning, like ravenous. But
Yeah.
it's because but not because of like I'm a greedy guy, but my stomach's just like I can just feel it like burning. It's just through the
Yeah.
roof.
So as I've got bigger, one of the weird things dieting is like um post show, I've experienced it. It's like hunger signaling's high, but my belly's full.
Right.
And post show, it can be like hunger signaling is really, really high and your belly's uncomfortable full, but you still got this urgency and drive to eat
Yeah, yeah.
in a way. To my entire prep this time, I've had a full belly with increasing hunger signaling, right? And
Okay.
like there's been a few evenings where I'm laying on the sofa after my final meal, just watching some bullshit. Because like towards the end of a diet, I find it hard to focus. Like
Sure.
I'm reading again and doing my like inner
Yeah,
child
yeah, yeah.
and
But
stuff.
when you're in that down phase, you just like
I,
bang something on Netflix. It
I
doesn't
can't.
offend
Well,
you.
yeah, I was trying. I could only watch like Adam Sandler movies and beard meat food.
Something you can just go, to, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll be lying there, and I'm like, fuck, I'm still really hungry. And I stand up, and I'm like, I'm really full, and I just go to bed.
You can't sort of
It doesn't
don't
equate, and it's
quite know, don't make sense.
so I've experienced it before, but I've never really experienced it as like a sort of a constant thing while dieting. It's like my hunger signaling is there,
Mm.
um, but my so, my satiety, like I'm
You wait for those
satiated.
signals to regulate again, aren't you?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? So you've got like different factors going on in terms of like satiation. It's
Mm.
like it's not just the fullness of your belly, but it's also those appetite regulating hormones.
Yeah.
They can stay really high while your belly's full, and they'll almost override.
Yes.
Um, and that's a bit of a weird thing to get accustomed to. But it's like, honestly, it's better than being empty and hungry. So I do
Yes.
understand why people pick like high volume foods, especially like natural bodybuilding, and they're
Yes.
eating like fucking protein fluff. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
they've
yeah, yeah.
managed
All these
somehow they managed to
hacks.
turn a scoop of whey protein into like a massive mixing bowl of something by using a thickener and this and ice, and shit like that. And I mean, thankfully, I'm not fucking about with weird diet foods or anything like that. Just
No, well, but
I'm actually having to
yeah.
be less fiber dense. Like right now, because my food's higher than it was pre-show, I'm actually still following the same sort of easy dry carb
Mm.
protocol. So I've dropped off Greek yogurt today.
Lesson learned.
But I'm like,
Bazookaed them out. Yeah,
I have bagels and some eggs.
yeah.
And then
Yeah. I I'm always calorically dense foods just digest so well. So again, dark chocolate, dates, honey, 15% beef. What else do I have? Pineapple, just stuff like that. Just I can't be bothered switching out brilliant foods for fluff and tricks and hacks, because although visually it tricks you and you go, oh, look at the size of this. It's like eating thin air,
carry
nothing.
on.
But yeah, it's a it's a funny one. It's a funny one that I just don't never feel the need to switch out these foods that basically I've digested on and lived with for so long, to suddenly go, I've got an idea. Let's try this Frankenfood, you know.
Yeah, they're never satisfying, are they? They're
I
never.
get it.
But that's
Yeah.
probably we probably explore that on another episode. Actually,
More than likely, talk about most things.
it's going on for a longer one now. But yeah, so post-show learnings are simply that like food demand is far more than I ever anticipated, and strategizing that is like a new learning, and that's pretty cool as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Alicante, and
Alicante, bring it
those
on.
guys that follow me on Instagram, I'll be posting, on a regular basis from Wednesday. My first check-in back. I've not actually done any posing practice really, a bit in front of the mirror. Um, I have had a bit of a settling out period post show, but I'm back into I'm doing my morning cardio,
Back into the
yoga,
routine. Yeah.
waist training, hitting a few poses and everything. But I'm sort of waiting for my check-in on Wednesday to get the video camera out and be like, "Oh, I'm hoping I'm surprised. It looks surprisingly good." You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Ooh,
almost
yeah.
like just stick to the plan as you normalize. Not like look every day and be like, "Oh, I'm not quite right." Oh,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Worst thing
like,
you
and
can
there's no
do. Like
point
stepping
just
on the scales every day.
well, I do that anyway because it's a matter of nature. But I just look at the
Obviously.
scale weight and go, "Oh, that's interesting,"
Yeah, yeah.
because like scale weight ain't fucking. My scale weight's now up, let's say £12 from pre-show, and I'm looking better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, I'm sure we want to see it ticking down, but uh, the doorbell went there, and that's actually a sauna, but not.
Is it?
Yeah, I've not. I was looking at like infrared ones and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but they were all like a 20-week timeline to just build it yourself anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've ordered like it was about 200 quid on Amazon. I've ordered like one of those. It's almost like a temporary sauna in a
Cool.
chair. And
That's
you,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna try it out. Like
Yeah, yeah.
having a sauna. I've got one at the gym, but I don't like going back to the gym just for a fucking sauna.
No, no, no,
And
no,
I'm
no. You
never
want
going
to
to do
stay
it
out of it.
post
Yeah.
workout. Don't recommend that, guys. Although it feels nice and it's convenient in terms of like hypertrophy outcomes, a heavy duty antioxidant post workout. It's great for your cardiovascular health. It's great if you're doing like X, Y, and Z for your well being. But if you're chasing fractional percentages of
Keep
hypertrophy
it away from
outcome,
yeah.
I probably wouldn't compromise that. Just like I wouldn't smash a load of ibuprofen
No
pre post workout. It's just muting the response to inflammation.
response. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I do want that sauna in. So tonight, I'm going to be sat with my head sticking out of this fucking thing on a chair.
Needs must.
Yeah.
Why not, eh?
I mean, I'll now have a cold shower and hopefully have like a good nootropic response. So I'll keep you posted.
Let me know how it goes. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, red light therapy and stuff like that interests me, but maybe one day, maybe one day.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, my man. So I think that's it for today's podcast. Guys, do like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications on YouTube. We're also on Spotify, looking at Apple, but it's just a fucking nightmare to upload. I don't know why. It just fails every time I try. Um, comment and interact with us and let us know what you'd like to hear us talking more about, what's been interesting, what you find uninteresting. It's all good as we build this fledgling podcast in a bit of a weird space somewhere between optimal physique outcomes, but also balancing mental health and happiness.
Yeah,
And that's ultimately our goal, is kind of, emphasize that bodybuilding should be fun,
yeah.
really.
Not to the
And
detriment of, yeah,
well,
mental health.
there are extremes to bodybuilding that come with competition, but as a lifestyle, it should serve you and elevate you, and it can absolutely. But I also think that with the wrong mentality and the wrong approach, you can actually make your life pretty fucking miserable.
Yeah,
Okay, and of course, and ultimately, the cosmetic outcome is going to be the same. So it's like, well, you got this path where you can be beaten up and miserable with poor mental health. And there's also a path where you can be like really fucking thriving. And absolutely, you're not thriving when you're stage lean. But even that now is, it isn't what it used to be.
no,
Like I say, the only difficult week for me was fucking putting food in. Yeah, I had fatigue and stuff like that. I dropped fucking 35 pound in like 6 weeks, of course. And fatigue was there, and we didn't deload and everything like that because we just needed to box off this regional. But I'm looking forward to obviously much better fatigue management going into Alicante. And I think it's going to be an enjoyable year. And I've always found this when I do seasons. I recommend this as well.
mm,
Is you prep with sufficient time and get lean, and then you can do multiple shows while eating better and managing fatigue, and just having increasing like good experiences, but also like improve. Your look improves as well. So yeah,
mm.
you can walk around like pretty fucking lean.
Good Nick, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so that's it for us for today, guys. Alex, have you got anything you want to shout out or add before we go?
No, mate, just ticking the boxes, living my life. That was a good one.
Yeah, nice. Good then, guys. We'll see you soon for episode 10. I hope you enjoyed today's reflections. And like I say, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.